Okay, so Yom Haatzmaut Sameach, everyone, and I thought it'd be nice to discuss the sugya, not just very, very, very practical, very controversial sugya, the whole shayla about Hallel and Beracha and all that, right? But it helps us sharpen our focus on the brachot that we have received, and of course, get a bit of insight into the Hallel aspect. We'll summarize Rav Avad Yosef on this Vav Mem Aleph in Yabia Omer. And he wrote this, a little bit after Hakamat Medina. And the history in Hallel was that for decades the Rabbanut did not say Hallel with a bracha. The Chish was to say Hallel at all, and for the Rabbanut to institute. One thing for the government to say national holiday. 1949, they decided national holiday. But that's a whole nother thing for the Rabbanut to get involved, sanction that, and then say, yeah, we're going to go with this, say Hallel. But they said without a bracha. For decades. And who changed it? Anyone know? Which Rav and the Rabbanut changed it? So just to get a little history on the bracha on Hallel. Who changed it? Rav Shlomo Goren. He was a game changer in general. He was a very unique gadol, very unique chief rabbi. And it was him and Rav Avad Yosef as the chief rabbis together. And they had this whole dispute. And he decided that he was going to push forward with this. And they had arguments. It was not a smooth topic. You have the original institution of Yom Haatzmaut from in 49, Rav Herzog. Okay, it was Rav Herzog. And Rav Ben Zion Meir Uziel. Isn't there a school in Beit Shemesh, Uziel? I think there is, named after him. And they worked together, and as far as I understand, they work together. They said, we have to do something. We have to commemorate this day. We don't want to leave this as just some secular day. We're going to sanction this day. And they agreed to do Hallel, but without a bracha. The famous gadol in that time of Meshulam Roth that thought we should do with the bracha, but they said no. And then Rav Goren, already 30 years later, he said no. And he's the one who put that. Okay, as far as I know, Merkaz Harav, the epicenter of religious Zionism, as far as I know, they did not say. And then once Rav Goren said it, they embraced it. Okay? And now, obviously, once Rav Goren did it, more and more said it. Till this day, you still have some that do it without a bracha. What's the concern? So, Rav Avad Yosef, he says this is the Schalt of the Gula. He does say that. He looks at it as a great bracha from Hashem and the beginning of the Gula process. He writes that who signed on this? Wild. He definitely sanctions the idea that who signed that this is Aschal to the Gula. So he quotes Rav Menachem Kasher, who wrote a sefer called Hatkalta to the Hatkufa Gdola. And in that Hatkufa Gdola, he has a proclamation where he writes that this is an amazing bracha from Hashem. We have to make this into a Medina of halacha. No delacha. No dela Hashem al shezachinu brov rachamav v'chasadav l'ot et hanitzanim harishonim shel atchalta geula. The geula im hakamata shel b'nai Yisrael. Baruch Hashem that we were zoche to see the what? The little nitzanim, the sprouts, the blossoms of the atchalta im hakamat Medina. Me'et Hashem. Lanu ki giya shat ratzon ha'mechayevet otan lavo lezrat Hashem b'giborim k'dei shatzin v'yidenu tibenem v'tigelina al tarat hakodesh. We need to make sure that it's built up on tarat hakodesh. already half a century earlier, there was an argument what to do, how to deal with the Zionists. You had the earliest Zionists was a century and a half early. In the 1800s, the Talmidim of the Grother Baal Shem Tov Sam Sofer, they were the first Zionists. People look at the movement as a secular movement. Well, if you go back to the roots, it wasn't. It was religious. But the lion's share of the movement in the 1800s to Israel and capped off in the late 1800s, 1897 by Herzl, was clearly secular, the World Zionist Congress. Although Herzl did make sure to eat at a kosher place. Not that he held by it. He wanted to try to be, respect people's sensitivities. But it was clearly a secular movement. So therefore, they're picking up steam. Ironically, the people that rejected Israel in their prayers and took Israel out of their prayers, the Reform movement, the secularists either stopped praying totally, davening totally, or they still daven, but took out Yerushalayim Ircha from the Siddur. The Reform took it out of the Siddur. Because how are you a good German and then you daven that you're going to go back and leave Germany and go back to Israel? That's not good patriotism. He took it out. And the Frum always kept it in. Ironically, Hashem had it somehow that the successful movement was by the very people that rejected Judaism, Orthodoxy, Torah, mitzvos, and Israel. And somehow they made that turn. Herzl, the famous incident, he saw the anti-Semitism growing, said we need to do something. We cannot just join the culture. It doesn't work that way. He saw the reporter, all the different stories. But the bottom line is they made the switch. And what's crazy is their success in moving things along wasn't despite their connection to the outside world and their loss of Jewish identity. It was because of it. How? Because Herzl was a talented writer. Then you had the military people, the agricultural people. They picked up skills outside the ghetto. And the very fact that they left the Torah world and the insulated world, they picked up so much from the outside world, right? And here they're moving things along. So now, how's the Torah world going to react? So you had a split. Rhinus and others said, we have to join them and make it kadosh. But we have to work with them. They're a talented group. They're a successful group. They move things along quicker than we did, either because we just had no numbers behind us, we the Orthodox, we don't have the skills that they have. We have to join them. It's going to be a very delicate marriage. It's going to be so gray, but we have to. It's God's will. They're ultimately fulfilling the great mitzvah of Yeshiva Aretz, which brings along other mitzvahs, hundreds of mitzvah. They're not doing it for the mitzvah Yeshiva Aretz, but they are doing it. We need to latch on and join them. Well, the Agudah of Rabbi Chanan Wasserman said, no way. Not only are the Zionists, the secular Zionists wrong, the religious Zionists who join them are wrong. They had the famous line, Shituf is Asam in Torah. Shituf means we have it in the Shulchan Aruch. You believe in God and Jesus and some kind of partnership. You believe in one non-physical God, but with someone else. Is that a Avodah or not? So use that term by the Mizrahi, Shituf. They're joining. He was very, very against it. And somehow, Mizrahi worked with them for decades, built up some religious kibbutzim over the years, tried to bring Jews here. And the world, like, yeah, we got to stay far away from this. And then you had, boom, the unexpected happened. Hakamat Medina, the proclamation, the acceptance in the Balfour Declaration, the San Remo conferences, 1917, 1920, 1947, the UN said, go for it, which is like, what? That's shocking. Russia, America, just East-West agreed. and then we had the chutzpah to announce and to state, and then we had the chutzpah to defend ourselves and win. So what happens here? Did the Aguda move over and say, wow, you guys were right? Or no? So here there was a call to the rabbis to say, hey guys, this is it. So Rav Soloveitchik moved over already in the 30s. Well, in the 30s, he was already developing his idea. He went to Israel in 35 to become the chief rabbi of Tel Aviv. He was representing whom in 1935? Aguda. And then a decade later, he's already the head of the whole Mizrahi world. There was a tremendous switch, which meant giving up his family connections that he had. Think of the Gedolim in the States, of Cutler, of Moshe, of Ruderman, Feinstein. The Bavitch was somewhere in the middle, in his own unique position. He didn't become the formal director of Mizrahi, the spokesman of Mizrahi. So he had his own sheet of Chabad. He was totally against giving up Israel. Some Chabadists went to the army more. He can't give any part of, but it was his own version. He didn't connect with the Mizrahi world. That wasn't the Chabad. So Rav Soloveitchik just went off on his own. And now that was already in the 40s, picking up steam. So now, 48, the ultimate miracle happens, or what we think is a miracle. What's going to be the reaction? What's the reaction? Are you going to have many who are against it say, wow, we made a mistake. God has blessed this movement, the union of the Mizrahi and the secular Zionists. God has blessed this marriage. We thought God would give it a get and not let it work and separate the two, or certainly not bless it. And the miracle of miracles happens. 1917, 1920, 1947, 1948 in the battlefield. It's just too clear. And then those who might have been wavering for 19 years, you'd think 67, they'd certainly jump on. And then now, look, more yeshivas and kollels than anywhere in the world. Kibbutz Galileo, 7.1 million Jews. It's screaming, isn't it? Well, depends who you ask. And the Haredi world has not jumped on the bandwagon of this one. But there was a call in 48 on this. And if I'm not mistaken, it's contested, the document. It is. The authenticity of it, I have to be honest. Just hear some of the people that signed. Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank, you heard of Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank? Not a kippah shruga wearing gadol. He was a Rav Yerushalayim in the Haredi world, and he signed on it. Rav Yaakov Moshe Chala, that's not surprising. He was from Yeshiva Merkaz Harav. Then it's the Rav Meshulam Roth. Okay, it's also not surprising. He was the first one to say that we really should say Hallel. Then a couple of Rav surprising ones. Rav Tokachinsky. Rav Tokachinsky, who's that? Every luach in the world that every shul has, a few years ago, it was his luach directly. Then other publishers started putting them out, but they're always quoting whom for the minhagim of davening? Who are they quoting? Him. What do you mean? He was yeshiva. He was there. Then another shocking name, Rav Yechezkel Sonner. Anyone heard of him? Rosh Yeshiva of what yeshiva? Yeshiva that was clobbered and destroyed a few years earlier in the Hebron massacre. There were many, many massacres way before the state was born. People think, oh, it's 48. That's what's caused all the Arab problem. No, it wasn't 48, it was 67. That's what caused all the Arab, because we became occupiers. We already were thought in their sides, where they were here for generations. And then we came 1800s, 1900s, and all of a sudden we're populating Jaffa and Jerusalem and Hebron. We already are thorn in their sides then. And people that think that it's the occupation, we give them back all the areas from over the Green Line, and we'll live happily ever after. It's sick. It's this unbelievable fantasy. Nothing to do with reality. Nothing. I'm not offering another solution right now. That's for another discussion. But to think that that's going to work, and you're not going to have shootings and rammings, just give them back 67 borders. We're a smart nation. We should realize that that's not a solution. Okay. So Rav Sana, they moved the Yeshiva Hebron to where? By Vagan. And he's here. He's here. Rav Sorotskin, the biggest kollel system in the world today, is Rav Sorotskin, from that glorious, prestigious family. Rav Sorotskin was there. The biggest name on this list, Rav Yaakov Adas, the biggest name on the list was, I'll start it off, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach on the list. Wow. You could see why people are going to want to say that no, it was forged, and Rav Menachem Kashi, he quoted this, it was a forged document, but let's just say that Rav Avadia Yosef accepted it as a real document. And he said an amazing line, listen to his line. Cruz, he quotes the Cruz, the announcement, the proclamation, Shechatumim alav kimat kol gedolei hador. Rav Avadia Yosef, himself a gadol of gedolim, says that just about everyone signed on it. And they call it what? Adchal to the Geula. He says, yeah, and he accepts that. The only thing he says regarding Hallel, it's Adchal to the Geula. We still religiously have so much more to go, which is true. Militarily, we have so much more to go. And it's not a complete Geula. So therefore, you don't say Hallel with a bracha on an incomplete Geula. But it's a Geula, but it's Adchal to the Geula. You hear? And he brings down the other reasons. Other sheets, it has to be all of Klal Yisrael that's saved. And here it was 600,000. He brings down other sheets that say it has to be an open miracle like Hanukkah. He brings down all the different sheets. And therefore he says that, in his opinion, there's definitely a svara to say Hallel, but he says it should be without a bracha. That's his opinion. Okay. And just to the other side, the Rav Melamed brings down all the different vikuach. Okay. He brings down the vikuach here, and here's what he says. Let's just summarize what he says in a few precious minutes that we have. Okay. So in his discussion on Yom Haatzmaut, this is in Pnei Halachas Manim. Rosh Chodesh for Yom Haatzmaut, Tzomot HaChorban, Tzomot HaChorban, Shloshet HaShavuot, Tish B'Av Chanukah Purim. So obviously in the discussion on Yom Haatzmaut, he says the following regarding Hallel. So he says, Yesh Omim, Av Ki Sheyesh Lahodot LaHashem, you have to thank him, but not with a bracha. Why? Because it needs to be all of Klal Yisrael. Has to be complete Hatzalah, and we don't have a complete Hatzalah yet, that we know. Every day there's another attack, ramming attack, shoot by. This is not a complete Hatzalah. 3, the spiritual Hatzalah is not there, far, far from it. Getting better than worse. All these Jews, if they were in America, they'd be intermarried by now, so it's amazing. Yeshua, for the Jewish nation, but Ruchnius, we have a way to go. 4, Galoi has to be a outright miracle like Kriyas Yamsuf and the Pach Shemen. 5, should the day be on Yom Haatzmaut, where we declared the state, but that resulted in war? Or maybe it should be on what? When the war ended. Or maybe it should be on the day that the United Nations voted. Actually, those who still push that till this very day. It's called the protocol. And where some rabbis then said the celebration should be on, it was in November 1947, that Hebrew date, around Hanukkah time. So because of those 5 reasons, what are the 5 reasons again? And it has to be all of Klal Yisrael, has to be a complete military salvation, it has to be a complete spiritual salvation, it has to be the Nes Nigla, and it has to be on the right day. So he brings down an answer to all those to defend those who do say it. And he says that according to Shulam Roth, it should have been done right away. And he says that was the Ikanes on that day, leaving Avdus Techerus by announcing the proclamation that we're going to have the state, we're going to run with the international acceptance, and we're going to accept this and declare. America, of course, was telling Israel, don't declare, don't declare. The same America that told us in 1967, when they were ready to wipe us off the map, don't do anything, don't do anything, don't do anything. The same America that when I was visiting in 1990, Iraq just kept lobbing the Scud missiles, don't do anything. Okay, I'm not putting down America. A tremendous Hakar Satov to America. Tremendous Hakar Satov, what they've given us. But we have to also know that ultimately to rely on others to defend us, that's not healthy. They get good allies, but ultimately we have to learn how to defend ourselves. Okay. So he said the announcement. Okay, if we didn't do it, it was pushed off the announcements, we would just be pushing it off, and then we would not have accepted and embraced the announcement from the nations. And then after that announcement, it led to what? Then we ought to defend ourselves for the first time in thousands of years. Okay, Neged Aravim. And the two defenses. Here, the Jews, here, we defended each other here. And we were able to go ahead. And Jews who running away from everywhere else, the Holocaust, we gave them a place to be as opposed to other countries. Sorry, ports are closed right now. And then you have the Shlishi of Kibbutz Galio, where they ain't gathering the exiles till this very day. So he says, he quotes the Rosihu to cook the very proclamation, Ruach HaGevurah L'Achriz Al Medina Yesh Banes, the very proclamation, the chutzpah, and the fact that we gathered together to make such a proclamation, knowing that what? It's explosive. America is saying not to. We don't even exist as a country. They're already telling us not to do it. We're going to be able to stand up to international pressure, to the war that will inevitably happen, and that itself. So then you have Ravad Yehodaya Yaskel Avdi. He says, yes, Chazal the Gula, but he did bring the Chidah that no, you can't say Hallel because with the Beracha. Okay. And then Nes wasn't exactly on this day, and all the different reasons that were brought down. Okay. Ravad Yosef, he quotes him as well. And what about, so you have all those, and then Moreno Rav Yisraeli, Eretz Chemda, one of the giant luminaries of Birkat Rav, also said not to. Okay. Rav Avram Shapiro, he was the chief rabbi and the chief of Birkat Rav as well. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. So they had very big giants on those earlier saying you have 5, almost a half a dozen reasons best to stay away. However, don't get into Safek Bracha, it's just not worth it. Yeah? Hasovin Shesach Lo Mahava Bracha says, wait a second. That no, a nace that affects the Jews in Eretz Yisrael is not just affecting 600,000 people. That is considered to be a nace all of Am Yisrael. Okay, it's a chiddush. Okay. Then he says that Ravadia answers that back. Yes, Am Yisrael and Eretz is considered all of Am Yisrael for certain matters, but not for this matter. You can't just say as a general, Ishtoku Gufo. Wife in Allah is like a man. What does that mean? So a woman's going to go ahead and shake the lulav. Says, I shake the lulav. I don't need to shake it. No. You have to know what the sugya means, right? Okay, fine. So here too, you have to know what the sugya means. But it wasn't complete. Yes, Shlomo Hanukkah. Well, what about Hanukkah? Hanukkah was when? 20 years before the Common Era, right? And everything was just hunky-dory and beautiful. When the Hashmonaim had the victory, we were totally independent and Ruchnius, everything was great. And we had to keep fighting for years and decades. Okay, and still, they made a yontif for that. And when we finished the wars, but you don't see anywhere where it says you need a Sanhedrin. Rav Avadi did not bring that down, you need a Sanhedrin. He just said there's a few reasons why we don't. In other words, do we need a Sanhedrin to say Brach when you see Yom HaGadol? I see Yom HaGadol. They need a Sanhedrin to say Shechianu. No, they just set up the rules. You apply the rules. So it doesn't seem like the person was so concerned about Sanhedrin as much as just do we have the criteria? Do you hear? So then he says, And so Hanukkah, and then you had all the Hellenism going on. So, and still they said it. Okay. And then he said, yeah, but maybe by Hanukkah they made the Hallel because of the Nei Shema, which is open Neis. Says no, it's also because of the Muhammad. And the simple Pshan Hallel is on the Hatzalah. And Hatzalah doesn't have to be. We lost so many Chayalim. Yeah, Chashmonaim also we lost. So who says the premise is Hatzalah has to be a complete Hatzalah with no loss and everything's perfect? Where do you see that? So they argue over what is the proper definition of Hatzalah in order to have a Hallel. And the success of the Medina is not less than what the Hashmonaim did. Okay. And that's a lot of this is the Rav Goren's approach. Okay. And the Sefer Rabbanut HaRashid. Oh, we got to wrap it up. Rav Herzog, Rav Uziel, the original rabbis. Last night I had the great zechus at our get together. We had Rav Menachem Kupperman. He spoke. Yeah, we hung out for a while. It was so much fun. And from Avat Zion, and the Aaron, the bima there is from Rav Herzog Shul. Where? Islands. And so then he had last Purim who sat in the shul for Megillah. The president of Israel, Rav Herzog, not Rav Herzog, Bougie Herzog. They're very close, and he's very mukubar to that shul because this is his grandfather's shul, and he's a very close. So then this whole discussion, should have they said it with the bracha? Not right away, and some complain it's a shame they didn't do it right away. But either way, you have a fiery, fun halachic machlokas over here, where you have all these rabbis agreeing the miracle was unbelievable, the proclamation was incredible, the fact that we were able to defend ourselves is amazing, 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 amazing. They all agree on the hashkafa here. They're not arguing Rav Soloveitchik versus Aguda. And that argument, no, they're all on the same page. Hashkafa, philosophically, spiritually, they just have, because of the half a dozen reasons, the halachic arguments back and forth. Until this day, we have that argument. It's a machlokas l'shem shamayim. Both sides are right. And both sides, to me, the main thing is agree hashkafically. This is huge. This is monumental. And this is the biggest mitzvah in 2000, biggest bracha in 2,000 years. And then you have the technical argument over this half dozen issues. And elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chayim. The main thing is that all Klal from Yetz Hashem should see hand Hashem, Yad Hashem. Everyone should see it. And Yetz Hashem. We should have Shalom Klal Yisrael. We should go from the Aschal to the Gula Shlema Yetz Hashem. You know what's with Sameach.